barakatuh. How are you, Sister Maryam?
Alhamdulillah. And today, a very, very iconic lady, somebody who, in my mind, who actually uh, contributed a part of her child towards deen and learning of deen, and somebody whose child was one of the forefront in terms of narrators of hadith, and that is Sulaim, and she is the mother of Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu. So looking forward to that. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today's segment is on Sulaim radiallahu anha, a mother of Anas radiallahu anhu. Sulaim radiallahu anha is, I think, one of the first Ansari women that we are covering today. And she's a really special lady in Islam. She was one of the first women to accept at the hands of Mus'ab bin Umair, who was sent by Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to Medina as an ambassador to teach the Arabs of Medina the religion of Islam. And this was after the first pledge of Aqaba, where 12 men from Medina pledged allegiance to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. She came from an illustrious family who sacrificed everything for Islam. Her son was the famous companion and also served Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for 10 years, Anas bin Malik, and his brother was Bara bin Malik, who was also a great warrior in Islam. Her brother, this is Sulaim's brother, was Haram bin Milhan and Sulaim as well, and these men gave their lives for Islam in the battles. The Ansari ladies used to call her Sahla, but it is narrated that her name was Rumaysa, some say Hurfa. Her first marriage before becoming a Muslim was not a very happy one. She was married to Malik bin Nadar, and there were constant quarrels between them. And even before she became a Muslim, when she did finally accept Islam, she did so without the knowledge of Malik. And at the time, he was not present in a then called Yathrib or Medina. When he returned, he saw this positive attitude about his wife, and he asked her, "Have you been rejuvenated?" She said, "No, but I now believe in this man Muhammad," and she meant the teachings of Muhammad. And obviously Malik was not happy at all, especially after she publicly announced her faith. He tried his very best to make her recant and give up her new religion to which she had vowed allegiance, but he failed, and she remained loyal to Islam. And on the other hand, she persuaded her son to now accept Islam. And he was a young boy at the time, and eventually her persistence paid off, and Anas radiallahu anhu took Shahada. And Malik was infuriated by this. He kept telling her not to corrupt his son. But she continued to instill Islamic values in Anas. And eventually, the quarrels became more, and Malik was very upset. And even though she stood her ground, he couldn't take it that she had given her life to this new religion and had taken her son, as it were, along with her. And so finally, Malik had left her and migrated to Syria, and he was murdered there. And although she was shocked at the news, it was actually a start for her to move on. And after her husband's murder in Syria, she dedicated her life and teaching Islam to her son Anas. And she gave him to the service of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He was about 10 years old, and Anas lived for the next 10 years of his life in the service of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And we know, as you mentioned, many hadith mentioned by him, and he says himself that these were the best years of his life. Sulaim requested that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam make dua to Allah to increase for her son in knowledge and prosperity in both this world and the next. And Allah had answered his du'as. Anas lived to an age of 103, and he had 80 children. He had a magnificent palace, they say, in Basra, huge, beautiful gardens, and which reminds us of Abu Talha. He was a fastidious man who loved to dress well, dye his hair with henna, and among his sons, many became learned scholars. But back to Sulaim. So now she is without a husband, and she has given the son in the servitude of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And so in Medina, there's a handsome, young, wealthy man named Zayd bin Sahal, also called Abu Talha. We know him as Abu Talha. who at the time was not Muslim, and he was a skilled horseman, archer. He was just like everything that a woman would want. And he was from the same tribe apparently as Sulaim, that is the Banu Najjar. And he knew that this widow, Sulaim, had many admirable qualities, even before Islam. Her integrity, her loyalty, her courage, all these appealed to him, and he was resolved to make her his wife. And so he set out to ask her for her hand in marriage. And Anas was present when he got to her home, and he made his intention clear that he wanted to marry her. And then she told him that a man like you is not easily turned away, but I will never marry you while you are a disbeliever. And Abu Talha thought that she had found a suitor wealthier than himself. And so he asked rather, what is it that really prevents you from accepting me? Is it the yellow and white metals? Gold and silver, she said, somewhat taken aback. Yes, he answered. Sulaim said, I will be pleased to accept you as my husband without gold or silver. I will consider your acceptance of Islam as my mahar. She continued, don't you know that the God you worship besides Allah grew from the earth? Yes, said Abu Talha. And so now she's trying to show him and try to not coerce him, but tell him about why are you worshipping these idols, and she's trying to, because she knew that he was a good man, and she wanted to persuade him, to see this beautiful religion of Islam. And so she continues, don't you feel stupid while worshipping part of a tree while you use the rest of that same tree for fuel to bake bread or warm yourself? So she's trying to show him, you make an idol out of wood, and then at the same time you use that same wood, you use it for a fire. And so she's trying to show him the foolish beliefs and practices of idolatry and trying to get him to accept the kalima. And he asked her, who shall instruct me in Islam? Who's going to tell me about Islam and teach me? And she said, I will. And, she wanted him to utter the shahada. But obviously it was a lot for him to just do it one go. And so he leaves. And as he's going back, he reflects deeply on what she said. And you must know that he loves her already. But now he's thinking, what this is. Islam is not just a religion that you say you're going to accept in you. So it's a lot for him to think about. And he was an intelligent man. And eventually, he had accepted Islam, right? And she was very pleased and delighted with her new husband who had now placed all his energies into Islam, because it shows that he did not accept Islam just for her. He did look into the religion. He did ponder over what she was saying. She was also not a woman who, and these are the lessons, right? She was without a husband, but she put her energy where? To Allah. She wasn't looking just for a partner without asking Allah. She turned to Allah first, and this is sometimes what we do, is we turn to means and we forget about Allah. She went straight to Allah. And she asked Allah, and she put all her energies in Islam, and Allah brought her that husband. Allah gave her that. And he didn't accept just to please her. Because why will we say that? Because history proves what kind of Sahabi Abu Talha was. And when you do that with sincerity, it shows. If he did not do that on sincerity, obviously it would not have lasted. And so Sulaim was very pleased with this. And Abu Talha was one of the 73 men who swore allegiance to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam at the second pledge of Aqaba. First pledge of Aqaba was 12 people who accepted Islam. And Ka'b and Asma bint Amr also witnessed Aqaba, and these are women that inshallah we would like to cover in the future. So Abu Talha had beautiful gardens, and the story also of how his iman was. And I'm giving you these stories about him because showing you where was the roots of his accepting Islam, where were the efforts, and it was from his wife. And they loved each other. These two loved each other. And they lived an exemplary life. If you're looking for two good people who were in love with each other and who are exemplary Muslims, you look at Abu Talha and Sulaim. And so it was noticed that Nabi Sallallahu had a special compassion for Sulaim and her family. And this was because of how much they had given to the service of Islam. And we said losing their lives also. Sulaim also had a well-known sister, Haram, and she was the wife of Ubadah bin Samit. And inshallah, we will cover also a segment on Haram, who gave her life also. She passed away on a naval expedition, and in fact, she is buried in Cyprus. So, after this marriage, and she was happy with him, and Allah had blessed them with a son. When the son was named Abu Amir. And one day Nabi Sallallahu visited him. Nabi Sallallahu was very fond of Sulaim, and he visited her house often. And when he visited, he found this little boy looking very sad and upset. And Sulaim told Nabi Sallallahu that he had a pet bird, and he loved to play with this bird, and the bird had died. And so Nabi Sallallahu was consoling this little boy, Abu Amir. But after some time, Abu Amir fell sick, and one night his temperature was very high, and he passed away. And Abu Talha was not home. This is one of there are many stories of Sulaim, but this is a very well-known one that we've heard of. And so Sulaim displayed exemplary patience and control in the death of her son. She did not inform anyone, and she did not shout in her grief. Not that displaying signs of grief is wrong. There's nothing wrong to cry when you've lost your baby. But this is a woman who loved her husband so much. She did not want to upset him in the least. And I know listening to this, we might think that it's over the top, or why would somebody do something like this? But we don't understand the level of their iman that they had. And so she comes, the baby passes away, and her husband comes home. And on his return, he asks how the baby is, or the child, and he was a child. And she tells him that he is better than he was before. So she's not really lying. Abu Talha is understanding her in the apparent, like the literal sense that she means he's better. But meanwhile, she's meaning that he's better than he was before he's with Allah. And then she, makes him comfortable, and he eats, and she speaks to him. And then they had intimacy that night. And in the morning, Abu Talha had a bath and intended to go out. And Umm Sulaim asked him, if a person entrusted someone with something and then came to claim it, should one return it? He said, of course, you should return it gladly. And then she took him to the room where the son was lying in a peaceful, eternal sleep. And she said in this trembling voice, because now she's going to tell him that the son is dead. And she says, Allah has taken back the son he had entrusted to us. And Abu Talha, they say, was a bit upset initially, because how could you not have told me this when I came home, But she wanted to make him comfortable, and then she wanted not just make him comfortable, more than that, she wanted Allah to bless her with another son. And so what we would look at just, she kept her grief in to please her husband. It's not just that. The deeper meaning would be, this was between her and Allah, in the sense that, Allah, I'm sacrificing like this. I've lost a son. I'm showing so much of patience, and I'm going through my test really well. And Ya Allah, tonight I will have relations with my husband, and from this, Ya Allah, grant me another son. That is what she really was doing. That is what she was doing. And so Allah really, from this issue, had blessed them with another son. So that's why we look at it, just at face value, and we think that, I would listen to this in today's day and age, say, how could she have just left her son dead there, and what was she thinking? But like we said, her relationship with Allah, and everybody's relationship with Allah is different. what may seem ridiculous to me, or say, oh, you're stupid for doing that. I don't understand your relationship with Allah. I don't understand what level of sacrifice you would go to. And Allah understands all this. For somebody, it may be a small thing, and somebody, it may be something more. For some people, we may find them, ridiculous. But that is all for Allah to judge, And again, history proves this, how sincere this woman was. Look, we will speak about their bloodline after this, and then you'll understand why she did what she did. And so in the morning, they both went to see Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made dua for Allah's blessing and prosperity for the couple. And soon another son was born to them. After a few months, the son was born, and Anas carried him in his lap to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they were so happy, and they made tahniq, that is softening a piece of date and giving it to the baby, and they named the baby Abdullah. Now, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made dua that Allah grant him prosperity as well. And they say, by the grace of Allah, when this child grew up, he got married, and he had some narrations say 7 sons, some say 9 sons. Bukhari says 9 sons. All of them were hafiz, right? So this is why she did what she did. There were many miracles that took place also in the life of Sulaim while she was with Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And one of them was when Anas narrated that his mother had a goat, and she used to make ghee from the milk, and collected it in a little leather bowl. And then she sent it to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as a gift, and with her adopted daughter. And then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told his family to empty the bowl, return it to the little girl, and the little girl brought back the empty bowl and hung it by a nail on the kitchen wall. And Sulaim anha saw that the bowl was still hanging, and now it's dripping because it's full. And so she went and asked the daughter, why did you not carry out my instructions? And she said, but I did what you told me. I had taken the key, I took it to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's house, and he instructed that I bring it back, and the bowl was empty when I brought it. And so she was so amazed by this mystery or miracle. And she went to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and she told him about the strange incident. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam then told her that she should not be so amazed, because this is a gift from Allah, and that He had sent a gift for her. And so she should eat from it, and she should feed others from it. And this barakah lasted. They say Sulaim emptied the bowl of ghee into a larger vessel, and it lasted them for 2 whole months, and others also ate from it. So there's a lot of barakah that she had in her life. Also, another narration when Anas narrated that Abu Talha came home, and he was a bit sad. He told Sulaim that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam looked so weak today, and I think he's weak because of hunger. And do we have extra food in the house that, we could at least invite him over for a meal? And so she said yes. She had some bread wrapped up in a cloth, and Abu Talha went to the masjid, and he invited Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to come home too, and let him at least partake of that extra bread that they had. Look how simple they were. And he accepted the invite. And there were Sahaba that were sitting there as well. And obviously, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is not going to go alone. So all of them rose to go with. And when Abu Talha saw this, he became nervous, because now they didn't have enough for so many people. And when he went home, he expressed the fear and concern to his wife. And she smiled and she said, don't worry. And she just put out whatever they had in the house. And she said, Allah tawakkal, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came in and he made a dua for this to Allah to increase it. And he asked Abu Talha to call in 10 people from outside. And so 10 people came in and they ate to their full. And when they had finished, he asked Abu Talha to call 10 more people. And so it continued until there were about 70 or 80 people that had taken their full of the delicious food. And still there was food left over. So this was Sulaim. Complete tawakkul in Allah. And a woman who always put her husband's mind at ease. She was there for him always, We know from before her role with the wives of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. When Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam got married to which wives, you remember? She was there for the two wives, Zainab bin Jahash, we said, and she made a special dish of dates and butter or ghee and sent it to them as a gift. And we also know, remember, Safiya, radiallahu anha, after the Battle of Khaybar, it was Sulaim who dressed her up and got her ready as a bride. Remember? She also played a role in the battles of Uhud and Hunain. Anas radiallahu anhu narrated that in the Battle of Uhud, his mother and Aisha radiallahu anha would fill the leather bags with water and give it to the thirsty, wounded soldiers. Sulaim at the time was pregnant, and they say she had, at Hunain, she had a dagger with her. Some say spear, some say dagger. And Abu Talha asked her, she was pregnant with this Abdullah bin Abi Talha, the baby. And Abu Talha was asking her, why are you carrying this dagger? Nabi Sallallahu, he told Nabi Sallallahu, and Nabi Sallallahu said, what is the dagger for? And she said, oh Messenger of Allah, if any mushrik comes near me, I will stab him in the stomach. So she was a woman she had this great spirit, and not harsh, but she was a woman who protected what she needed to protect, and her Islam was her everything, In another narration, she said to Abu Talha about the dagger, and then he narrated it to Nabi Sallallahu, and Nabi Sallallahu smiled at her spirit, and he said, "Oh Sulaim, indeed Allah is sufficient." Anas radiallahu reported that Nabi Sallallahu used to visit them often, and when someone asked him for the reason, he said that he was very sorry for her loss, because she lost her brother, we said, Haram bin Milhan, and his last words when he passed away was, I have become immortal in Islamic history, means he gave his life for Islam. And Sulaim bin Milhan as well was martyred in the same battle. So we can see this type of family that they come from, where they really gave their all. So she was loved by Nabi Sallallahu for this, and thus shared a special relationship with him. And besides, for his wife's home, when he was asked regarding why he would visit her house, we said that he felt sorry because of her brothers supporting Nabi Sallallahu. And Jabir al-Manu also narrated that Nabi Sallallahu said, I saw myself entering into Jannah and Abu Talha's wife was there. Isn't that amazing? So in this dunya already Nabi Sallallahu had seen this. And this is a really great virtue to have. And obviously virtue comes from sacrifice. And we see how her life was before. And the lesson, or the big takeaway that we have from this woman is that she had put her complete trust in Allah. In all of these women, we see this trust in Allah, we see this perseverance. But for this woman, she put her trust in Allah and she loved her husband, and together they were an example of serving Allah together, And may Allah make it such that Allah blesses our children with such love. Allah blesses our progeny to find partners. Today, it's difficult to find partners, let alone who are on the same level, but who can be together in compatibility and that where the one Islam rises, the other one must also rise. Not that you outgrow each other and becomes a problem later. We saw this with Sahabi. In some we saw they were divorced, in some this Sulaim story is a good one. And I love the story because it's a story of hope, So may Allah bless us with her iman, and Allah bless our children and our progenies with it as well.
Sister Sauda, Jazakallah. I mean, you see, every time you see there's a dip in my voice. It's lal. When I say the Jazakallah, it's lal. So you know how I'm concentrating and listening. And actually, I'm not in the studio. You've taken me back to, I said, the most beautiful city. And I think is the days go by and the uncertainty of the vaccine, our hearts, the yearning has increased a lot more. And we have hope, inshallah, soon we can be once again in the court of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and visit and also engaging tawafs. But Jazakallah for that. For me, again, every week it's a lesson for me to improve myself in my character as
Likewise for
well,
myself too.
because I seen a woman that is a mother figure who was a
Mm-hmm.
protector, a nurturer, and a supporter. And yes, we've heard this story, the narration, the seerah before, that she had lost a son, but she had put her grief aside to pacify her husband, first fulfill his rights, and then next day do this. And like you say, it was always because I thought. The one perspective was that she did it because for her husband's sake, and that, but you brought another dimension to it, and you made me realize it was her pact with Allah, her conversation with Allah, to say, I'm doing all this, so inshallah you can, we always say, when we say inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun, so we also say it so that we make dua, whatever we lost, Allah give us something better
Yes.
instead. And inshallah, so you've given us that hope. So even if death is a finality and you've lost a child, she's an example. And Sulaim has shown us, our mother Sulaim, that make dua, make a pact with Allah, speak to Allah, grant me something better in return, grant me another progeny. And from that progeny, you've mentioned how many people were then flag bearers of Islam from that progeny as well. So Alhamdulillah, trust in Allah, she said. And another, when you spoke about, and yes, and you did the testing, because when you spoke who she supported, I started thinking, I remembered Hazrat Safiya, but I forgot. It's just somewhere there, but I forgot. So shukr for not putting me on the spot in reminding us. They say reminders are beneficial for believers. So shukran for that. But you know what, it made me realize, and I think that is important for our mothers, especially our senior mothers, the ones that have wisdom and society looks upon them. Sometimes when you have a sister who is new in deen, or somebody who may be a little different from our community and our society, then you know your position in that community.
Yes.
You have the responsibility to reach out, because if
Yes, she was like a community
exactly,
member, going out and reaching out and
so
making
my
them feel
appeal is,
comfortable.
my appeal is to those sisters, you know who you are. You've got people respect you in your community. People come for you for comfort, to support. So when there's somebody that's new in the community, that's coming from outside, or even outside of the deen, that's a revert, and maybe and you know what, it will be maybe some uncomfortable, some hostility that happens. It happened in time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with Hazrat Safiya radiallahu anha. Please use your position as the protector, as a nurturer, to give your support. Because if you're going to support such a sister and welcome her, then you have paved her journey and her pathway to be accepted within the community. And that's for me
And what
a take back.
legacy can she leave if she's been accepted with this
Exactly.
sincerity
So
and
that
this
was
love, and it's something that lasts.
That's my take back from there, is which I also will now say I'm emulating Sulaim in this, that I will continue to welcome and embrace our new sisters in our communities, in our areas, and offer them comfort and support, because then that is going to pave the way for acceptance within the community that they're going to be interacting in. So always a lesson. And I think you make me find lessons where you don't even think that that's going to be a lesson in what you're saying. So Jazakallah so much for that. I enjoy our interactions. And until next week, may you always be under the mercy and the protection of the Almighty. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We're going to go for a short break, and then we're going to speak to another campaigner and champion of children's rights, and that is the Commissioner for Western Cape Commissioner for Children, Ms. Christina Nomdo. All this after the break.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
Did you know a sponsored water well and borehole allows children to go back to school, empowers communities, and is a means of sadaqah jariyah for you? There are many villages in Africa and Afghanistan that are in need of water wells and boreholes. Africa. Sponsor a water well in Africa for just 12,000 rands, or a borehole in Africa and Afghanistan for 49,500 rands. Call Africa Muslims Agency now on 011 834 8685 or donate online at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, inspiring the spirit of giving.
Cape Town Tours. Luxury service at affordable prices. Anytime, anywhere. Services include airport transfers, sightseeing, customized full-day tours, Islamic historical site tours, this is Kramarks, mosques, Boerkaap, etc. Long-distance trips available like West Coast, Mykonos, Hermanus Garden Route, etc. All transport in and around Cape Town to meet your needs. Very versatile and flexible. Safe and reliable transport in an air-conditioned luxury car. Contact Gulam on 071 346 7069 or 074 191 6144.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa. Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back. You're tuned into Inspired Afternoons with me, your host, Miriam Mia. And now we're going to revisit a topic we were discussing yesterday regarding the delayed reopening of schools. So yesterday I had a principal, executive principal, and member of independent schools, as well as Secretary General of EMS on Mr. Ibrahim Ansu, and then I had an educator as well discussing this. But today we bring another dimension to the discussion because the Commissioner for Children for the Western Cape has put out a press release regarding the delayed reopening of schools from a learner perspective. Now, we're going to be speaking to Ms. Christina Namdu, and she was appointed Western Cape Children's Commissioner on the 1st of June 2020. She has 30 years of experience in working with children and the youth. Her passion for children's participation in governance is evident, and before becoming the Western Cape Commissioner, she served on the National Planning Commission as a child rights specialist. So I'm so pleased that the children have a campaigner, a voice for them in Ms. Christina Namdu, and I like to welcome her to the show. Good afternoon, Christina, and thank you for coming on Salam Media.
Good afternoon. Thank you for providing me with the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. So, I'm also a champion of children's rights and passionate about education. And yesterday we covered the area extensively. And then today I seen in the Citizen release that, the learners' right, were they adequately consulted in terms of the delay, how they're feeling? We all understand the scientific evidence that was provided by the department and government, the reasons why, due to health and safety concerns, for the delay in learning. But tell me, were learners extensively engaged in terms of the delay in the consultative process?
No, unfortunately, our governance system hasn't matured enough for us to understand that children need to be involved in all decisions that affect their lives. And so there hasn't been engagement with children learners around their perspectives of whether school opening should be delayed, but also more importantly, to gain from them their experiences of learning in COVID times and how we should improve the system of education in 2021.
Yes, because you're quite right in that the various stakeholders, the adult stakeholders, are making decisions in terms of everything from blended learning to the curriculum to the condensing of the curriculum in that. But ultimately, in practice, this is what the children are experiencing, and their experience needs, if you want to correct and improve upon the system, the greatest feedback is from those that the system is aimed at. So, I mean, you need to take feedback from this, because I'm just looking at consumer surveys. When you make product, when you do product development, you send it out there and you have trials upon trials on your consumer base to get feedback so that you can improve on your product. So how much consultation has there been with learner representative councils, with various students in various provinces, maybe in different quintiles of schools as well, in terms of their experiences, and then get the think tank to say, how can we improve on that? Has there been extensive consultation, or there's a loophole in the system?
There's definitely a loophole in the system. And, I work in my office with a group of children known as child government monitors, and they keep me connected with realities of children. All government departments should have children as advisors to their department. If, as you said, their services is targeted at children, children must be able to give them the feedback. So I went to one of my government monitors, and he is also the chairperson of the Representative Council of Learners in the province. And he says, and I'm going to read, government need to practice child participation and should have included learner leaders within their structures of the Representative Council of Learners when making this decision. I hope the government will think of the importance of child participation and in future and include children in decision-making processes that will directly affect them. So he has given us direct feedback, but that the structures that the education system has legally to engage with learners, their RCLs, they have not connected with them.
Yeah, because then for me, all these learner representative councils, RCLs, and for me, it's token appointments then maybe, because it shouldn't just be to feed parents' egos that my child is in an RCL or they are in this learner councils, and maybe it looks good on your profile that you send towards university to gain entrance in university, but it should come with a responsibility and allow the learners to fulfill that responsibility by taking them serious. I'd really love to check in upcoming programs to your mini governors, because we can learn so much from them. So tell me, in terms of what are the feelings on the ground from various of your governors? I suppose you get them from a broad dynamics and demographics. Besides that, you read, what are some of the feelings in terms of the delay, the safety, but the challenges with online learning? Because for me, online learning supports a very small learner population who live in a maybe good urban area with good Wi-Fi connection, reception, and that, but that's not true for majority of South African learners. Am I correct in that assessment?
Absolutely. And I think that just to go back to your previous very important point, we cannot use children as tokens and call it child participation. We have to give them the responsibility to be active citizens, to engage with us in the debates in society. They are to inherit the future of the society. And so we must start to train them how they need to take responsibility for the society. So on the 6th of January this year, I decided to embark on an open consultation with all the learners in the province. And I put a request out on social media to say that anybody who is a child in the province can connect with me. And I gave them different methods to connect with me and to talk with me in a structured way about their learning experiences and what we can learn from them. Your very important point also is that they want to be safe. And us as adults, we have the responsibility to keep them safe. So whenever schools open, this week, next week, the week after, they must be ensured of their safety. I was talking to them and they're saying that there are teachers pulling down their masks while teaching. So your child needs to be able to come back to you as parent and say, Mommy, that teacher is not keeping me safe because I know you told me we must always keep our masks on. So some of the practices that children are reporting on can help us to understand why they feel unsafe at schools. The other issue that you mentioned is the one of distance learning, and you are completely correct. I get very frustrated with the Department of Basic Education, who cannot even provide toilets at school, tell me that they're going to roll out ICTs across the country instantaneously to make learning accessible to everyone. We know that for most people, it means you have to have a smartphone. You need to have money to buy data. Children have told me that their parents, the phones that their parents have, are not even adequate to receive the WhatsApp messages and the worksheets that the children need to complete. So they are very stressed by all these additional resources required. Also, parents seem to be the main teachers at home. And so they have to juggle this with their own work program or their struggles to survive. And this is really an unfair burden that we are putting on parents. And most importantly, and lastly, I want to stress that children tell me that they are stressed. They are overwhelmed. They are not coping with the kinds of demands that are placed on them by huge workloads that needs to be fulfilled at home with very little support from the education system.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking also when we are streamlining the curriculum now and they're shaving it and that, but the pressure is on the learners as well, because yes, educators' responsibility according to department regulations is this learning criteria has been met, this assessment has been done, there's some district official, he just looks at theory, you mark, okay, this year you've done this, okay, and that's it. We're not teaching a syllabus to robots. We're teaching to individuals. And that's what I feel it's become very theoretic, and it's almost that the syllabus is for mechanization. We forget that these are individual learners, but each has a unique constraint to learning. How they perceive learning is different, and they have circumstances, and those marks and assessments don't reflect their true potential, capability, or where the barrier to learning or challenge was. And I've seen in policies, there are very great policies in terms of support system, feedback, and that, but it's all very theoretic. And by the time you get there to implement things practically, time is up. So I think, Christina, from your side, in terms of your office, how do you get, or how can we assist you to get government and all the stakeholders to listen to the voice of children? You are the voice for children, and we'd like to support you on Salam Media on this platform as well. So what can we do, even as parents, how do we support you?
I always say I'm a little bit too old to be the voice of children. They are their own voice. My office is a platform, like your media station is a platform for them to talk for themselves. And I think that your suggestion is excellent and very welcome for us to bring some of the child government monitors onto one of your program slots and let them express themselves freely. It's up to adults to make sense of that in a policy way or a law way, or what we need to change in practice at home for them to make life more conducive for them to cope with. But giving them the platform to speak is one of the biggest missions of my office. I've got a hashtag and it says, little voices must count. So the time is past for us to put children in the corner and say, you should be seen and not heard. You know, children may have the solutions for the type of new age problems that we face these days. So we have to listen to all sources that we have and all resources we have in our society. And so little voices must count.
Absolutely, and we're gonna hashtag that hashtag Little Voices Must Count. And Christina, this is your platform in your home. Salam Media is a humanitarian journalism online platform, and we're here for you. And no, my passion is education, so I'm well versed of the issues. And a campaigner, I mean, I firmly believe in child or learner-centered education and teaching according to their needs and wants, because that is the way we're going to guide them towards responsible adulthood so that they can be positive contributing members, upstanding citizens for the future. So this is a platform here, and tell me if anybody listening here, learners, want to get hold of you, how do they contact you? What platform? Is it an email, a WhatsApp contact, or a Twitter, Instagram page? How do they contact your office? And tell me, is this only for Western Cape? I know you're based in Western Cape, but can I, in Northern Cape, where the beaches are open, only place where beaches are open, can we contact you? The people are still searching for the Northern Cape, that beach where it's open. So can that Northern Cape place where they're sitting on the beach now 2 extra weeks of that, can they contact you? Where can we, how can we contact you?
Well, the Western Cape Commissioner for Children is the first office of its kind in the history of South Africa. And unfortunately, my legal mandate is only in the Western Cape. And so we want to promote the fact with other provinces that they need to also be champions for children's rights and agitate for a children's commissioner in their province. But these issues are systemic issues, they are national issues, and I speak to even national departments and players on what I've learned from children in the Western Cape. And so for the Learning in COVID Times consultation, you can contact me on WhatsApp 083 776 7067 or by Facebook.
Christina, what we're going to do is I'm going to ask Ziad to put that on the screen as we speak. So if you can repeat it, so Ziad will put it across the screen. So if you can give us your WhatsApp number again, so you can put it across the screen.
I actually have a poster for this consultation, which I can send to you, and it has all the contact details on it.
Okay, but for now, just give us the WhatsApp number so I can put it on the screen. It's 083
776
776
7067. And I work very ethically, so a parent needs to contact me first before I speak to a child. So parents need to contact me for their children to participate in the consultation.
We're gonna put this up on the screen as well. And then one more, while we're speaking about legal, can you, because I know the